Now, let's return to the United States and to the White House, because Saturday marks the 100th day of the Donald Trump presidency. Though in many ways it's a bogus measure, it can also be a good time to take stock. The first 100 days often reveals the character of a presidency and sets its tone. So what is the state of the nation now, and what does the future hold? Well, let's talk more with Scottie Nell Hughes, a Trump supporter who currently serves as political editor at rightsalert.com. She's a national for us. And Peter Fenn is a long-time strategist for the Democrats. He wrote an opinion piece saying Trump hasn't been able to meet even ridiculously low expectations for his presidency. Thanks to both of you for actually being with us here on the programme. Peter, to you first of all, sum it up for me, the first 100 days.
3 words: chaos, chaos, chaos. I think the problem he's had is that he came in saying he was going to do a whole series of things. He's going to build a wall. He was going to, on his first day, repeal and replace Obamacare. He was going to, have a tax plan that was going to just make America great again. This stuff is stalled. Of 550 appointments, key appointments in this administration, he's only got 23 through, and very few of them have even been nominated. So I think what you have is a very chaotic situation with this president. He's continued to tweet and continued to make big news, that's for sure, but accomplished little.
You've touched on many bases. Scottie, chaos, chaos, chaos. That's Peter's assessment.
Well, that's typical for a Democrat, considering they've basically done nothing and the status quo has been stagnant for the last 8 years. So, of course, he's going to say it's chaos because it's called action. And when we're looking at consumer confidence right now, is the highest it's ever been in 16 years. I think that right there is a great result to show how much the economy is finally being able to move because we have a pro-jobs president. So what maybe the Democrats like to say is chaos. And this is the same Democratic Party after an 8 years administration that had less than a 3% GDP and where we saw our national borders more porous. What we're seeing today in just 100 days is nothing short of just pure success, and a president who is not a politician but a businessman delivering on his campaign promises, not necessarily trying to get reelected, which is basically what most politicians do.
You said he's doing things, Scottie Nell Hughes. I mean, on the Supreme Court, he has been successful on jobs. He claims success, but the LA Times broke down his promises. They say he's kept 4, 9 are work in progress, 9 are stalled, 4 are scaled back, 5 are abandoned. I mean, there is so much flip-flopping and actually so much that's not been done that he promised.
That's interesting because when you're looking at, we just saw where we're not going to be shutting down the government, that the Senate Republicans and Mitch McConnell is now saying that they're not going to shut down, so we're going to have a budget, so you will not have a shutdown. You're seeing the repeal and replace. The Freedom Caucus has endorsed the new one, the new plan that is coming out, so that should be voted on. And any of the stalling that is happening is because of the temper tantrums of the Democrats and the crying tears of Chuck Schumer, who now has to carry a box of Kleenex with him every time he goes on to the floor, because basically he is being shown time and time again that they were ineffective when they were in control and when they had power, and the Republicans are doing everything they can right now.
Scottie, I hate to disagree with you here, but this really has been the gang that couldn't shoot straight from the get-go. He inherited an economy on the move. He inherited a saved auto industry. He inherited a declining jobless rate. I mean, 800,000 jobs a month when Barack Obama took over the presidency. So basically, he had a situation which was really in pretty good shape. And we haven't even gotten yet to the foreign policy question. I mean, I have to say that I'm petrified by this president on North Korea. We could end up in a shooting war with North Korea.
I'll come back to foreign policy in a moment, Peter, but in terms of the big failures, the travel ban, healthcare, was that in part a problem of not understanding or not even wanting to understand the complexities of some of these issues?
I think, to give him credit on this, and he's made this point. I would agree with this. He's made this point. Look, it is complex. This is not easy. It's not as easy as I maybe thought about it. But, this is a man who's 70 years old. He's been around a long time. He's dealt with politicians. His problem is he is now there in the presidency with the lowest approval rating of any president by far, 40% in the last NBC poll. He is in real trouble, and he needs to tone down his rhetoric. He needs to get his act together on what he really stands for instead of flip-flopping, and he has to really concentrate on the job at hand.
Scottie, we'll come to foreign policy in a moment because there are so many pressing issues at the moment, but I want to talk very briefly about the style of government, the late-night tweeting, the ranting. I mean, are you happy still doing all of that?
Well, the tweeting has gone down, but the reason why he is tweeting, and this is what is driving Democrats and Republicans batty right now, is it's keeping the engagement up with the people. Most time in most elections, politicians want us to not care a few months after the election so that they can go back doing whatever they've been doing in D.C. for the last 100, 200 years. That's not happening with President Trump. The American people are still staying engaged, hence why you are seeing things like the Repeal and Replace Plan Part 1 go down, because people realized it was a bad bill. I do, however, find it funny that every single time, whether we're talking about the travel ban or we're talking about health care or we're talking now about sanctuary cities, liberals have to run to the same court, the Ninth Circuit Court, in order to try to get their work done. If they had such the right and the law on their side, they could go to any judge, and it would be so obvious.
Hang on, those are the checks and balances your system are actually built on. So we'll leave that to a side.
Peter, when did one judge get more power than a person elected by the American people?
Peter,
that is the question right now. I think a lot of Americans are asking.
Style and tweeting, his press spokesman. Your thoughts on all of that?
Well, I think this is devastating. I mean, I think the problem is you cannot treat this president, as he is governing today, with Steve Bannon at his side, as being a normal presidency. And I think that, and I use the term normal, Scottie, as a good thing. I think that is deliberate, that is reasoned decisions, that is having facts at your disposal, that is having people in place in the various departments who help you make policy. Right now, we see a chaotic administration, and it will bear terrible fruit out there, and I worry a great deal about it. And he should cool his jets. He should stop the tweeting. He should do what he did at that one speech, which was at least a reasoned speech before the Congress. He should read from teleprompters, and he should rely on the advice of real experts and not necessarily billionaires that he brings in to supposedly clean the swamp here.
I like all your talking points. I get all your talking points, but so far the fruit of his work has been pretty good as American jobs are here. We saw yesterday the corporate tax rate reduced to 15%, simplification of our tax policies. You're seeing everything be very successful, so I'm sorry.
Let me nudge you on to foreign policy because I've... Let me nudge you on to foreign policy because I've said a couple of times that we would get there and what you're actually seeing, because what is your take? I mean, you are a supporter of Donald Trump. When you were watching him campaign and supported all that sort of trigger-happy Hillary, is that what you envisaged? Cruise missiles in Syria, going toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un?
Well, we have to go toe-to-toe with Kim Jong Crazy Boy, because of the failed policies of the last 8 years that allowed him to basically grow to this type of power. Whether it's true or not, we don't know necessarily what's going on with North Korea. And it's a positive right now that we're in talks with China for the first time, as they are going to be the real way to diplomatically be able to put this boy back into grounding, into the corner where he deserves.
However, I mean, Trump was talking about calling out China as a manipulator of currency. So that's gone out of the window as well, hasn't it? Because he now needs China in terms of dealing with North Korea.
Well, because China might have changed their ways. Once they realize they're not going to get away with it anymore, that they don't have this clean bill, that the last president and his administration allowed our foreign policy, allowed leaders to be the leader. We had a policy of leading from behind. This president is actually on offense. He is proactive, and that's what you're seeing. A lot of these military advances happening is he's showing that red line that was drawn by the crown of Barack Obama is now being put in hard ink.
Peter, get in there. You're being very polite.
I will tell you, Scottie, talk about talking points, talk about rhetoric. The fact is, right now, we are at a worse place with North Korea. We are at a worse place in the Middle East. This is someone who said he knew more than the generals, and now he's saying, well, the generals can do whatever they want. They can drop the biggest bomb in America that we've ever made. But the key thing here is you are not dealing with a rational actor in North Korea. You're absolutely right. So the way to deal with him is not to provoke him. The way to deal with him is
just
not to
ignore him?
talk
Just
about
to completely
preemptive
ignore him? That's what we've
strikes.
done for the years that have allowed us to get to
Wait a
this
second.
point.
One point here. Jim Woolsey, who worked with you guys, said yesterday that one of the scariest things here is not that they have ICBMs that can reach the California coast from North Korea, but that they can put a nuclear weapon on a satellite and shut down our electric grid and shut down our communication systems. Now, this kind of thing, if you provoke somebody like Kim Jong-un, you are going to pay the price, and so is Seoul. And so is Japan,
here's the issue.
And so are our
this
troops
didn't just develop since November. This has been something for the last 8 years. We should have stopped this ahead of time and not allowed him to
Can I just get in between
this control. This is a president trying to clean up the past president's mess.
Let me ask you both one more question, because whilst all of this is going on, and there are other very important issues like Syria is also grappling with, one remembers that White House photo call with Angela Merkel, a key ally, where she sat alongside him and asked for that handshake, and repeatedly he simply didn't even look at the German Chancellor. I mean, is that, Scottie Nell Hughes, how you treat a valuable ally? He also put the phone down on Australia's Prime Minister. I mean, does that help, that sort of approach to diplomacy?
Does it help some of the policies that Germany has been putting in right now that has allowed the floodgates to open and refugees come in? And we're seeing this wave of terrorism happening in countries across Europe right now. And Germany could have taken a step up. I think this is, I'm going to show you respect when you show my country respect. And that's the whole issue with NATO and everything else. We're going to finally actually ask for the rule of law to be followed, and we're going to be consistent across the board. It's how a businessman handles things, not a politician who just wants to be the popular person who voted homecoming king of the world.
The one thing I'm very pleased about is that this president has now decided that NATO is something that's important, is something that maybe we should work with. But the problem with this president is that he is not normal. He is being petty. He is being petty in his tweets. He was petty not shaking her hand. Maybe at 70 years old he'll learn something. Maybe he'll come to grips with this, how important this diplomacy is. But you cannot treat people as if there's some little real estate tycoon in New York City.
We are
this is serious business.
We are almost out of time, which is a real regret, because I've enjoyed so much talking to you. A couple of sentences from both of you of what you expect beyond this 100 days. Scottie, to you first of all, and then Peter.
I absolutely think we're going to deal with this North Korea sooner rather than later, hence why we saw all the senators coming in. I think that will be the #1 focus at this point. That'll be the next issue the president's going to tackle, and I'm going to see the second repeal and replace plan actually go for, and Americans finally actually be available to get affordable health care.
Peter, final word.
I wish you were right, but I'm afraid that this plan, whether or not it ends up passing the House, it will not go anywhere in the Senate for health care. I think what you're going to see, though, fundamentally, is I think you're going to see more and more Republicans in the Congress going to this president, trying to get him to move to reasonable policies. And if he does not do that, they are going to jump that Titanic sinking ship if it's going down. Look, he's at 40%. He should be at 60, 70%, as most presidents are. And these folks are getting very nervous. They're going out to their constituents in these town meetings, and they're hearing from them. And I sense that unless the president really rights his ship, that gets some real professionals in there, starts to move from beyond chaos, that the Republicans will abandon him.
Peter Fenn, Scottie Nell Hughes, I've enjoyed watching you joust for the last 10 minutes or so. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Still to come on today's Global. It seems that traditional books were confined to the